kind of go back and forth because the Thai butter halibut, curry butter halibut packet, I want to get that into the oven because I want you to see how that puffs up. So I'm going to I'm going to start in a couple of different places. So let me show you first. Earlier today, I did a lot of prep today, and for the mirin,
oops.
Angela, you muted again. You're mute again.
Mute. I don't know what I touched. So the sake, this is the mixture of rice vinegar, sake, mirin, and then ginger. What's in here is the ginger and the hot pepper and garlic. That's what's in here. And so you see how soupy it is? So I'm going to put this on now, and it just boils because it has to boil down to approximately half this. And it's very much like other things. It looks like nothing's happening, nothing's happening, nothing's happening. And then pretty soon it's really thick. And it got so thick last time that I had to dilute it a little bit with water. So I'm going to turn this on now so that it's doing its reducing. And then I'm going to switch over to making the mushrooms for the halibut packets because I want you to see that. So I'm going to put this back on the stove and turn it on. And I'm also, I think I'll put this, Grant, could you do something, move this over there for me? I'm going to move over to the stove. Wait, I can do it. Never mind, huh? Thank you. I'm moving over to the stove. So I'll show you, these are the mushrooms for the halibut with the Thai butter curry in it. And I got today, my supermarket had oyster mushrooms, beautiful oyster mushrooms. I don't know if you've ever seen them, but they look like this, except it was gigantic. And I'm also using shiitake. So that's what I'm using here. Last year when I did it, I was able to get button mushrooms at my farmer's market. So you can use any kind of mushrooms you want. And I have a big pile of them because I made this Thai halibut packet thing for a dinner party last year. Catherine, were you here? I don't know if Catherine was here for that.
No, we weren't there for that.
Okay, I thought you were. But anyway, everybody complained because they thought other people had more mushrooms in their packets than they did. So people complained. So I'm making lots of mushrooms, so nobody would ever complain that there aren't enough mushrooms in their packet. So that's just going into the pan. Let me see if I can show you that, like that. And I'm gonna put some salt and pepper on those. And I've got, at the same time, this little pan is going to hold the vegetables that I'm sauteing for the mirin. So in here is 2 tablespoons of carrot, 2 tablespoons of yellow pepper, 2 tablespoons of red pepper, 2 tablespoons of zucchini, and some garlic, I think. I'll look at them. So that's just going to get sauteed for a little bit. Also with a little bit of salt and pepper on it. Get all that going over here. So this kind of is very colorful, and when it goes into the mirin, the reduced mirin sauce, it's just a beautiful, colorful, thick sauce, and it's quite sweet. So, well, it's sweet and sour, and it has some bitterness to it. It's a very, very delicious sauce. You can make a lot of it and keep it in the refrigerator for a long time. And anytime you made fish, you could put that on the fish and bake it, or steam it or whatever. So that's just all got to get done. This only has to cook. You know how quickly mushrooms cook. They cook really fast. So the first packets I'm going to make, as soon as these mushrooms are done, are the halibut packets. And last year I did not make it with halibut because the halibut steaks, the halibut fillets looked terrible in my fish market. So I made it with cod, and it was delicious. You could make it with any kind of flaky fillet, cod, halibut, haddock probably. The cod was delicious, and cod is often inexpensive. The halibut was not inexpensive. And this is halibut season up here, so the fishermen are catching it. I had hoped, actually, there's a place here called Port Clyde, and there's a fisherman out there. I had hoped to get out to get some fresh from him, but I couldn't get him to answer me. I didn't know what time he was open. So this is getting cooked down, and that'll cook for a little bit more. The mirin sauce is reducing. You can see it, but it's not quite thick enough yet. And my mushrooms are almost done. Because they're going to cook, you don't have to overcook them, because they're going to cook a little bit in the oven too. The thing about these fish dishes is that it's hard to cook. If you're having a big dinner party, and I'm usually having big dinner parties, it's not something you can have ready and just serve it. There's always going to be something you have to do at the last minute. And with the Thai butter halibut packets, you can't put those in the oven. They only take 13 minutes to cook. So people have to be just about ready to sit down. You have to have served hors d'oeuvres. People have had to have drinks. And right before you're going to serve, that's when those packets go into the oven. And I want to put them in the oven because what happens is so beautiful. The parchment paper puffs up. And then when you serve it and people cut into you go around on the table and you cut the packets with a scissor, and all that delicious aroma and the steam from the fish, it's just gorgeous when it comes out of the oven. So let me get the curry butter out of the freezer. So the curry butter, this is the curry paste, that red stuff. And it comes in a jar like this. Also in the Asian part of your supermarket. So this has got garlic, chili, the Thai chili paste, and about 7 tablespoons of butter. Now I've already made it because you make it ahead of time. This you can make a day ahead of time. And you put it in the freezer. And I already did that. So in a minute, I'm going to take it out of the freezer. But it's in a bowl like this. And you just have to mush this all together really, really well. And then you can put the whole bowl in the freezer like that. Or you can do what I did, and I'll show you in a moment. Let me get them out of the freezer. Turning off those, everything's turned off now. So this is what they look like. See, I used this little dipper. I used my small one that's about a tablespoon, but like this. And I made little balls because you're gonna put on the packets, you're gonna put mushrooms, fish, and then you're gonna put a couple of these on top and some scallions, which are cut up like this, very thin scallions. And that's how you make the packet. So let's put together some packets now. Let me get this so you can see what I'm doing over here. So I cut beforehand, I cut 4 12 by 18-inch pieces of parchment paper. If you don't have parchment paper, you can use tin foil. I don't think tin foil puffies up the way parchment paper does. And you also, for some of the recipes I have, see this? This is a white craft bag. It's really wonderful. I ordered a bunch of these for the kids for a project because you can put these together and make this huge, beautiful flower. But for some of the recipes, they say make the parchment packets and then slide the parchment packets inside the paper bag. And both the paper bag and the parchment will puff up, and it's just another pretty way to present things. So here's my piece of parchment paper. Here's my curry butter. Here are my scallions, and I'm gonna go get my mushrooms. So here are the mushrooms. So what you want to do, let me do this over here, is to put the fish, and I was pretty careful today about measuring these halibut steaks. I used, I don't know if each of you have this, but this is a wonderful digital, they make wonderful digital scales now, and this can measure in either grams or ounces, and it's just very, very handy. So with any fish, I was able to cut 6-ounce pieces that were pretty good for the halibut. I didn't have as much luck for the salmon, so I'll show you in a little bit what I did with that to fix it so that each piece was equal. So what's going to happen now is that I'm going to put some mushrooms on this packet. I tell you to kind of, if you have enough counter space, and I don't right now, to lay the 4 pieces out. I made this for 12 people the last time, so I had parchment paper on all the way across this counter, and it was like an assembly line as I was putting them together. But the first thing I'm going to do is to put some mushrooms on here. So I'm kind of going to divide this pile of mushrooms into 4 reasonably equal parts, like that. Have any of you cooked with parchment paper before? Anybody tried it? No?
Only under my gingerbread houses.
Yeah.
Okay.
Only for baking. Only for baking.
For baking, yeah. Well, a number of years ago, I had my whole, when I was on the board with AAA, my professional association, I had the whole board up here. We had a board meeting up at the Samoset here. And that was the first time I ever cooked with parchment. And I had to, there were a lot of people here, so I had to make this huge amount. So there's the mushrooms on the parchment paper. And then on top of that goes a nice big 6-ounce piece of halibut. And then on top of this goes some of the, got to season this with salt and pepper. Do that. And I wasn't paying attention to the mirin, but it's definitely reduced. And so I've just turned it off now. You know, if I was looking at what is actually in mirin for people who couldn't get it. And mirin is like rice vinegar and corn syrup and lemon. So if you didn't have mirin, that's what you could do. Put rice vinegar, corn syrup, maple syrup, probably honey to sweeten it, and lemon, and you could make a reasonable facsimile of it. So that part's done there. And now, oh, excuse me, I went to get the salt and pepper. So I'm going to put a little bit of salt and pepper on this. And then on top of this goes 2 of those little curry butter like this. Maybe even a little bit more. Let's see, how many do I have? 1, 2, 3, 6, 7, 8. Yeah, we'll put a little bit more. So that's it. That's what goes in there. And then you want to kind of have divided the paper in half. So this should be in the middle of the right-hand half. And then you bring the left-hand half over.
Don't forget the green onion.
Oh, well, yes, thank you. Does that go on top of there? You're right, it does. Scallions, yep. All right. No, oh, here they are. Thank you, Dagmar. Somebody remind me not to forget the soy sauce when I make the next recipe, because I always forget that too. So there's that. So this is going to go over here, and then you're just going to start crimping this. And you want to make it as tight as you can. Let me see what I'm doing. I'm going to start here and crimp this. And crimp it here. For some recipes, instead of having a big rectangle, you make you actually draw a heart onto the parchment paper. And that's a pretty presentation, but they end up looking pretty much the same. Do that, and turn it around and get out the other side. And you don't want to pull the paper too much because you want to leave room for it to puff. And I'm doing this. And it ends up making a kind of half moon-ish sort of packet. But see how this is opening here? You don't want it to be open. You want to keep crimping it to make sure all of the edges are closed up as tightly as you can, because you're basically what you're doing is steaming this in this paper, and you don't want to allow the steam to escape. You just keep doing this. And then you're going to put these on sheet pans, and they go into a 450-degree oven. And they literally take about 13 minutes, maybe 15 minutes, no more than that, in a very hot oven. They tell you that the way to tell that it's done is to stick a knife into the middle of the packet, and if the knife is warm when it comes out, the fish is done. But I generally have a little bit of angst over whether the knife is warm, is it warm enough? But it's almost foolproof. So that's what the packets look like. And we're just going to lay these on a sheet pan. I'm going to try to fit all 4 of them onto the same sheet pan, but that may not be possible. Yeah, actually it will. So there's the first one. We're going to make all 4 of them. Here's the second one. So again, fold it kind of in half so you know where the half is, and then you want to center the mushrooms right in the middle of that right-hand half, like that. I could have made more mushrooms even yet, and that was way more than they said to use. Center the halibut there, and some salt and pepper. And the scallions. I'm going to put the scallions on first. And then the chili butter. That stuff is so delicious. It's really out of this world. I'm trying to get a little piece. Add a little bit more. Put a whole bunch. There's that. And then, same thing. Roll it over and start crimping all the way around. I found a website, a YouTube channel, as I was kind of doing a little research on rice paper. And it's something like, I'll send you the link, but it's something like Chef Jacques plays with rice paper. And it's this young French guy who is hilarious. And he cooked a whole, I think he had 10 things you can do with rice paper that you didn't know you could do with rice paper. So I really enjoyed listening to him. But you can steam anything in rice paper, and you can make wontons out of them. You can make dumplings out of them. You can cut them up with a scissor into noodle-like strips. And that's rice macaroni, rice noodles. It's the same thing. So there's our second packet. And you see I am paying attention to how tightly I'm crimping this because I really don't want it to open when it's in the oven. But there's a second packet ready to go. You can do this part of it ahead of time. You know, you can certainly get the packets ready and keep them someplace where they'll stay. You don't want them to be cold because you want the fish to be room temperature when it goes into the oven. Here we go with mushrooms again. And haddock fillet on top.
Hey, Angela, it's Therese.
Hi.
Can you, if somebody's not a mushroom fan, can
Yeah.
you suggest what might be the bed instead of the mushrooms?
Maybe some sauteed zucchini.
Okay.
Maybe, maybe asparagus. I
Okay.
don't know about asparagus. I would say zucchini.
Zucchini.
Yeah, it's probably your best bet.
Would onions, like a sauteed onions, with that be too strong for the fish?
I think that would be too much. I
Okay.
really do.
All right.
Because there's a lot of onions and garlic and stuff already in there.
Okay. Yeah, good point.
I don't know about that.
Okay.
And, you know, people hear the curry paste. And this dish is not hot. It's fragrant. It's spicy, but it's not hot. You know, your tongue is not, you're not going to want to drink a glass of water kind of to get the heat off your tongue. But it's very, very different from anything I had ever tasted anyway.
Scallions?
Say it again.
Did the scallions go in that one too?
Oh no, gosh, I had the thing about scallions. I don't know why.
Sorry.
I don't want to put the scallions on there. Thank you. I'm ignoring my scallions. Maybe a milder onion, trees like vidalias, or I don't know,
Okay. So it's like a
shallots maybe.
saute, just some of the peppers and
Yeah, that might be also.
okay.
But the mushrooms, you know, they don't taste like, I don't know. I didn't always like mushrooms, but now I like mushrooms. Yeah, kind of the more you taste them and experiment with them. And also my experience with mushrooms was that my mother used to cook them until they were until she was sure they were dead. And so they didn't have a very nice texture. Okay, there's number 3. One more.
And Angela, can you use spinach as a base?
Oh, that could be. Yep, that might be very tasty. Spinach, broccoli daub, broccolini. Yep, that would be good.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
And my advice is don't go pick your own mushrooms.
Yes. You know, people, there are websites that tell you how to do it. I would never put a mushroom in my mouth that I had picked. Last year, my grandson, Addie, found a mushroom grown in the yard across the street and swallowed it, ate it. And Angie came, his sister, came running in And they could not determine what it was. And since they could not determine what it was, they couldn't get in touch with the poison center or the mushroom center or whatever that agency was. They had to take him to the hospital, and you know, they don't pump stomachs anymore. They make the kids swallow this, I don't even know what it is. It's black. Looks like it's charcoal.
It is, it's charcoal.
Oh, so he had to swallow that stuff. I put the scallions in. I'm putting lots of butter. Closing it up. So is everybody getting out more? How are things opening where you are? Or are you pretty much stuck in the house still?
Things are open a little here, but I'm not in any hurry.
We're at stage 2 in our little, in a number of counties in Maine. Things are stage 2, which means restaurants have opened. And I had a very, well, I'll tell you later, but I had a really interesting experience with a restaurant owner up here for one of our favorite restaurants. We've basically been to 2 restaurants, and one of them, which is called the Waterfront,
Leave it with like the rind on, just like, you know.
is just doing everything.
Leave it with the rind on and slice it.
Somebody's got to be on mute. One of them, the Waterfront, is just meticulous about the way it's following every single rule that there is. So when we go there, we feel really safe, like everybody's following the rules. And then we went to another of Grant's favorite restaurants, and we definitely had a different experience. And then I ended up calling the owner, and I had a really interesting conversation with her. And you'll know who she supports politically when I tell you about the conversation. So there we are. We got 4 packets. And I'm going to put them in the oven. They've got to be in there for 13 to 15 minutes. It says, let me see, 12 to 13 minutes, but that's, they asked for 5 ounce, and I've got 6 ounces here. So I'm going to think that this needs 13 to 15 minutes to be done. And then we'll be able to open one of them up. Okay? Ready to go in. And I'm going to put the timer on. Okay, so that's the halibut. And if Grant were here, he would be making a horrible joke. All right, so now let's do the rice paper one, which is a lot of fun. I'm gonna get all of this stuff. Also, when that comes out, you serve it with lime wedges, like that. So I'll do that when that comes out. And we can get rid of all this. Okay. So, rice paper. I have never cooked with rice paper, but this is what it is, looks like. And they look like this. And the reason they look like this is that they make these in a basket. And that's the basket that you're seeing that kind of makes a pattern in the rice paper. So, the other day when I made them, I just was rolling them on this board and they were sticking. So I'm going to see what happens with parchment paper this time. So let me get the mirin and the vegetables.
Angela, I have a question.
Yep.
I diced the yellow and red pepper, or finely minced, and I have more like 3 tablespoons of each.
Yeah, I used it.
Okay.
I definitely was not careful about that. Look how thick this stuff is. See?
Wow.
It's actually a little bit too thick. So I actually am going to add a little bit of warm water to that because I let it go too long. Okay. So see that is so thick that I wouldn't be able, that's not going to be a sauce. It's the consistency of honey, but it's easily remedied, truly. You know, you could probably put a little bit of extra sake in it, but I'd be worried about that because you'd want to boil that off. So I added probably a tablespoon of water, and now it's behaving more like it's supposed to. I wanted to drink this sauce when I made it the other day. It's so delicious. You could make this in, like, if you just were making regular fish or having sushi, or this could be a dipping sauce. It's just delicious.
Can you replace the sake with something?
It says you can replace it probably, but not with, you know, sake is like vermouth, right? I think it's a fortified wine.
Uh-huh.
It's made out of rice. It's made out of rice. So maybe vermouth, maybe a really dry white wine. I don't know. You know, you boil most of it off. Could Google what's a substitute for sake in recipes. Like, I think I'm gonna, so now I'm just putting the vegetable stuff in there. Vegetables got a little more done than I would have liked because I wasn't paying attention. And to me, that's still too thick. See, it has to be like a sauce, and this is not like a sauce. It's still a little thick. Last time I made it, I had a little bit of extra, and I put it in the refrigerator. And the next day, we had some leftover fish too. And I just loosened it with a little bit of water and heated it again in the microwave, and it was fine. But it thickens up. So that's about the consistency that you want it to be, like that. So it's sauce-like, see? Okay. So now we're going to do the rice paper. Honest to God, I thought this was the best thing since shoes. I was so excited the other day. So I've got a little bit of warm water in the bottom of a pan, and you want to try to find a pan that the rice paper will fit in. That Chef Jacques did not use water like this at all. He had a damp towel on the counter that was damp with warm water. And he put the right piece of rice paper between the towel and kind of patted it, and it softened up enough for him to use it. The other day, I didn't have any idea how to do this, so I kind of let it sit in there, and then it sticks together. So you're gonna see how quickly I'm gonna do this. So here's the salmon. Also tried to get 6 ounce pieces of salmon. And some of the pieces were a little smaller, so, and you know, there's a thin end on salmon, so I just took the thin end and I'll put it underneath the thicker piece as I lay it onto the rice paper. All right, let's see how successful I am. So there's my rice paper. And I think all I have to do, yep. So I'm gonna put it in there. Watch how fast this happens. That's already soft, maybe a little bit more. But that's it. You don't want it to be too much softer than that. And then you just lay it there, and the fish goes right on top of it like this, right in the middle.
Angela, will you tilt your screen?
Oh yeah, sorry. There. Just want to see something. These also are supposed to get salt and pepper on them. Should have done both sides of it. We'll put a little bit more there. And then you start like this. And I'm just wrapping. So I'm lifting up the sides. I put one big end and then the 2 small sides, and then like this. And There it is. This is adorable little packet like this. And I'm going to let this one sit here because we're going to saute each of them. We're going to saute all 4 of them at the same time. So there's number 1. And I didn't get any rips in it. So that's good news. Here's the second piece of rice paper. And it's going into the pan. See? Like this. Sharon, have you cooked with these?
No, you know, Angela, here in Irvine, there are more Asian people than anywhere else in the world, I think. So there are so many restaurants that I really don't try to cook Asian that much.
It's like me with Italian food.
Yeah.
But it's still, honestly, I can't wait to make this for a dinner party because it's just different. I don't know if I would make it for a dinner party where there were going to be a lot of people. Because again, you can make the packets ahead of time, I guess. I'll try that sometime. But it does have to be served to get the full effect of the crispiness. You have to serve it right away. So can you see I'm just wrapping. They're each getting wrapped pretty snugly. And again, you don't want any holes. So there's 2. We'll do a third one.
So Angela, is there any oil or salt and pepper
Just salt and pepper on the salmon.
on the salmon and then you put it in the rice paper?
Yeah, I think it might have said, let me just see something. They did want you to drizzle a little bit of oil on the salmon, which I haven't done, but I'll do that now. I didn't do it the last time either. I forgot that part. But I'm doing this part of it much better with the rice paper because last time I just had no idea how long to leave it in the pan. So then it was like saran wrap, you know, trying to fiddle with saran wrap. So let me remember this time to put salt and pepper on both sides. That's what I was supposed to be doing. Both sides. And then right into the middle of this, and I'll get the vegetable oil. And just drizzle a little tiny bit on the top. That's probably too much. And then wrap it. So you do a long side first, then the 2 short sides, like that. And then the last long side. And kind of stick it together. That could be better. It rips really easily. And it definitely is a good idea to be doing this on a piece of parchment paper rather than on a board or on a counter, because the rice paper sticks when you try to do it that way.
And would you put vegetable oil versus olive oil?
It says vegetable oil,
Okay.
canola. So now I just ripped this rice paper as I was trying to put it in here, but it's pretty forgiving. So it should be okay. So there it is. And as it's sitting here, you know, it was still pretty stiff when I took it out of there, but as it's sitting here and it's wet, it gets softer also. So you just have to do it fairly quickly. Okay. And we'll put a little teeny bit of vegetable oil on there, like that. Long side. Oops. This one's a little unevenly on the paper. Short side, long side. All right, there we go. We have our 4 packets. So now these are going to get sauteed. You see how it's sticking even to the parchment paper. I'm just trying to move them to the center so I can move them over to the stove. And it's also really important when you put these in the pan that they don't touch each other because they'll stick together. So let me get us over to the stove again and to the larger frying pan. I'm just going to wipe this pan out because this is the pan no. Yeah, I think I better use this pan. Okay, so I wiped that pan out and now I'm going to use vegetable oil again, not olive oil. Get the pan hot. And I'm going to get serving dishes because this will go right onto the serving plates. Oh, I want to show you something. I set the table. So I want you to see how my table looks. Can you see?
Gorgeous.
Isn't that pretty? So I made some rice too, which I'll tell you about in a minute, but these go onto this plate. I'm gonna get these plates. I need a cameraman. Nobody has volunteered. Okay, the pan is hot. I'm gonna put the oil in.
Angela,
Uh-huh.
just a comment about the oil on the salmon. Just a little touch of sesame oil would be really delicious with that.
I think you're right, Sharon.
Not too much, just a
Tiny
little.
bit, huh? So I'm going to let that get really hot because these have to be crispy. And so when I put them in there, I want them to crisp right up. My wish is here.
Hey, Ange,
Yeah.
did you add the soy sauce
Where was I supposed to put the soy sauce?
to the vegetables that go in the sake?
I did not. And I didn't do it the last time either. I am not, I don't learn well. And
Well, you forgot it.
One thing, you could probably dribble a little bit of soy sauce on it when you open it up. And that'll be okay. Sharon, does sesame oil have to cook to be right? For example, if I took this out and dribbled a little bit of sesame oil on top of it as it came out of the pan, would that be okay too?
I think so, yeah.
Okay.
Just a little though.
Yeah.
So if I'm going to use a little sesame oil on the salmon, should I use a combination of sesame and vegetable or sesame and olive oil?
I don't think I would use olive oil here.
No, not olive
I
oil.
want a real, okay, so see that's going in there. And those are going in. And you hear it? The oil is hot. My other fish is done. So see, they puffed. See how they're puffed? I'm gonna let them sit out. That was really fun. Okay. Now I let these really get brown on one side before I turn them. And they're not ready yet. You want them to be brown. So I've got them on pretty high heat. And it says in the recipe that if they're thick enough, where was I supposed to put that soy sauce? In the vegetables?
In
The vegetables in the mirin?
it says add the soy sauce and vegetables to the sake.
Oh. So I'll just add the soy sauce now.
Yeah.
Okay, I did it. All right, let's see how these are doing. Not yet. Not yet. You have to be careful it would be better if I had a tong that had the rubber padding on it than this, because if I'm not really careful, the tong is going to rip the rice paper. And I don't think I can flip these well enough. Well, maybe I can. It actually should be more brown than that, I think. This one looks like it might be done. Flip it. Oh, come on. I actually ripped the rice paper there. And these are thick enough that I think I'm going to want to dip it onto its side to let it brown a little bit there. You know, you cook them as long as I don't like salmon raw in the middle. I like it to be cooked. So I tend to leave them a little bit longer. So you're going to put the mirin onto a plate like this, right in the middle of the plate. I think the camera is washing the color out a little bit, but this is a very, very deep golden color with all those colorful vegetables in there. It's really pretty. Tip this onto its side just a little bit.
Are those really brown? It doesn't look that way in the camera.
They are. They're crisp. You gotta use the tong. I can't figure out a way to do it without using the tong. And my finger, which I'm burning, I want to get it onto that side a little bit, because I can see that it's still raw in the middle. That. Put this one over on its side a little bit. And this one on its side a little bit. That rice paper gets like a crispy, crispy skin. And you can hear, it has a crunch to it, actually. Another minute or two and these will be done.
So if you were going to reheat for leftovers, would you put it in the oven?
We put it in the microwave just for a few minutes. It wasn't crispy, but it was delicious the next day.
Okay.
You wouldn't want to see it. It's brown. So it just goes right into the middle of the mirin like that. And that's how you serve it. And I would probably put a little bit more mirin around this, and then you serve a little dish of the mirin on the side so that people can serve themselves some more if they want it. So let me get these all onto plates because they're all done now. And then I'll open up the other packet so you can see what that's like. I don't want these to get overdone. But these are done now. And there's a second one. And the third one. I should have a different spoon than the one I'm using. I'm just making a mess. And you can find the prettier side to serve. I'm just going to take this out of the pan so it doesn't continue to cook. So let's take this over here and let's cut it open. And I'll show you what it looks like. it is. It's really pretty. I had it on a white plate the other day. This is pretty too. I'll show you the rice that I made. I made this delicious rice. It's lemon basmati rice, and it's got lemon zest, lemon juice, and then it's basmati rice, and it was cooked in chicken stock. And I've got it in my steamer basket now, so it's all cooked. And this is something you can cook ahead of time. I've also got asparagus in one of the steamer baskets, and I would just have turned this on and steamed the rice to make it warm, and as the asparagus was getting steamed and done. And that's what I would serve with this. Okay, we're gonna try it. And then I'll plate one of the packets so you can see that. So see, this is definitely crisp now. And that salmon, actually for me, that salmon could have been cooked some more because these are thick packets. So that should have been cooked a little bit more. This end of it is cooked. Some people would like it that way. That's how it looks on the inside.
Yeah, it looks amazing.
It is delicious.
Oh my gosh.
And it's crunchy.
Yeah. This is weird. I think I can smell it. Isn't that weird? It's weird, right?
It's really, really delicious.
Oh my gosh.
I wonder if you could also kind of, like this one I would want to put back in the pan to cook it more. And I bet you it would crisp up again. So maybe if you undercook it the first time and then saute it a little bit the next day, the crispiness would come back. So let me get the dish for the packets. So the packets you want to serve in this is a pasta dish that I use sometimes. So it's got because there's going to be stuff coming out of this packet. There it is. Some of the butter is sneaking out. If you're really being fancy, you put little scissors at the table so that people can cut open their own little packets like that. Oh my.
Angela, will you tilt your monitor again?
Yeah. So there's that.
Oh, yeah.
That's wonderful. Wow.
And that is also, the smell from it is, the aroma is just wonderful. And the fish is really flaky, and all that delicious sauce is on top of it.
Let's see you eat it.
So I'm like Lydia Bastianich, you know, she always eats in front of people.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Makes me dance. That is absolutely delicious. Delicious. And the mushrooms kind of, you know, these mushrooms, oyster mushrooms and the shiitakes, they have a meatier kind of taste, feel to them, mouth feel to them. When you put the rice in the middle of all that delicious stuff in there, that's really good. Samantha, hi. So that's it. How did we do? Just about an hour.
Do we want to hear about the restaurant?
Oh, wait till I tell you the story. So we went to this restaurant because they have prime ribs on Wednesday night, and Grant loves prime ribs. And we had gone there once before for lunch, but we sat outside. It was fine. It's a big patio, so it was fine. But this time we didn't. We sat inside. And when we sat down, it was clear to me. First of all, when we walked in, the receptionist didn't have a mask on. Everybody else did, but she didn't. The tables were not 6 feet apart. There was no signage up about masks. The rule in Maine is that when you go into a restaurant, you have to have a mask on when you walk in and a mask on when you walk out. You have to put a mask on if you're going to walk to the bathroom. The only time you don't have to have a mask on is when you're seated at the table. So those tables were not 6 feet apart. And there was no signage up about needing masks. We were the only people that I saw walking in with masks on. In retrospect, we should have gotten up and left, but Grant was really excited to have, so we stayed. And I asked the young waiter, I said, you know, I'm noticing these tables aren't 6 feet apart. He said, oh no, the rules changed and it's okay. It's just that we can't have more than 50 people in here. And, you know, I had read the rules. I knew that wasn't right, but we ate kind of quickly and we left. And the next day, I wanted to speak to the owner. So I called her. First, I spoke to the manager and I told her my concerns. They were also using paper menus, and you're supposed to throw them away, and they were not throwing them away. Or you have to use laminated, and you have to wipe them after each use. So there were a lot of rules that weren't being followed. And the owner called me back in the evening, and she said to me, I want to hear what your concerns were, and I told her, and she said, well, I want you to know that the health inspector that you called was here this afternoon. And I said, wait a second. I did not call a health inspector. I said, I wanted to do the courtesy first of talking to you, certainly before I did anything like that. So she went on to tell me that the health inspector had come, and she said, basically she told me that they passed. That it was okay that the tables weren't 6 feet apart because they weren't seating people at every table. Yes, they were. Yes, they were seating people at every table. And she, through the conversation, these are the things she said to me. I can't be the mask police. It's not a law. And I can't be the mask police. And I said, well, it is a rule that's supposed to be followed, and there's supposed to be signage up. Well, she said, well, yeah, maybe there is. She did say she was going to, the health inspector had told her that, but he told her the tables were fine. So, and then I said to her, you know, we love your restaurant, and we want to come to your restaurant because we know it's been hard for all of you people. But I said, we want to feel comfortable. So then she said to me, I'd suggest if you're not comfortable that you don't come.
Oh,
And then we hung up. I mean, she was very pleasant, but that's what she said to me. So I thought a lot about that conversation. And the next day I did indeed call the health inspector. Not only did I call the health inspector, but I called the Maine department that wrote the rules, because, you know, she kind of said to me, she was sort of saying, you know, like in Italy, you don't stop at red lights because it's a suggestion. You can if you want to, but if you don't want to, you don't have to. So that's kind of what she was saying. It's a suggestion, but you don't have to do this. It's not a law. No, it's not a law, but it's not an option. These things have to be done. This is stage 2. And if she wants her restaurant open, this has to be done. She can't simply say, well, we only seat every other table. She has to actually remove tables so that every table, corner to corner, is 6 feet away from the table next to it. There has to be signage. People have to wear masks when they come in. All of these things are absolutely true. So I think she was going to get another visit. The other thing she said to me is, I said, you know, we take these rules seriously because they're necessary to keep all of us safe. And she said to me, well, you know, you take it more seriously than I do. She said, because I haven't been sick. None of my staff has been sick. I don't know anybody who's been sick. You know, in Knox County, which is where we live, the rate of infection has been very, very low, all of which is true. But now there are lots of out-of-state people coming here. These restaurants are, the minute a restaurant opens, people go to the restaurants. So that was her, I take it much more seriously. If you're not comfortable, don't come, stay home, go someplace else. So I just thought it was an interesting comparison between how one restaurant is handling it. And last night, I don't know if you saw the picture of Grant eating the oysters last night, but that's the waterfront restaurant. And they're meticulous. They don't touch, when you give them your credit card, it comes back in a glass. She picks it up with gloved hands and your credit card comes back in a glass. the bill is in a glass. Everybody is masked. Even on the patio, you had to have that mask on when you walked to your table. They've removed tables, so everything is minimally, and they've got wider corridors so that when the wait staff is passing each other, because they were running last night, those kids, they had less chance of being too close to each other when they were running back and forth. So in that restaurant last night, we know the hostess really well there, and I went up to her at the end of dinner and I said, I just want to thank you for being so careful and meticulous about this, because we feel safe here and comfortable here, and we'll come back. Just interesting. You know, I haven't been sick, so I don't believe this. Not really. You're making a much bigger deal out of this than.
Well, no communal responsibility, right?
Right.
Are you still cooking?
Right.
But
So
part of it is really truly a lack of understanding of healthcare and how things are communicated. One of my colleagues, her mom read only the part of the rule that you just talked about in restaurants, that once you're seated, you don't wear a mask because you need to eat. But she just saw that once you're seated, you don't need a mask. So their church has a rule that once you sit in church, you no longer need to wear a mask.
oh my God.
So but she just picked this one piece, and then my colleague, who's her daughter, said, but Mom, why would that make sense? Like, why would it be less likely to communicate if you're sitting? And her mom was like, I don't know, but that's the rule. So,
Even if somebody's sitting immediately next to you.
Hi, Sam. I see
so
Sam.
just sit down and you're fine.
Yeah.
Just
Well,
don't
it is confusing here in California because each town has their own rules for the beaches. One town says the beaches are open, but you have to be active, walking, running, whatever. You can't be sunbathing. The other says, yeah, you can be sunbathing as long as you're 6 feet apart and only within your family group. So it is very confusing.
They had in that restaurant, Archer's, they had a banquet kind of table. And then right next to the banquet table was a smaller table at which two people could sit next to each other because there was no chair in the front. So there was a family of 10. The rule also is you can't have more than 8 people in a group. So there was definitely a big family, and there were definitely more than 8 people at the big table. But then right next to it, I mean, right next to it was this table for 2, where those 2 people who were not part of that family were sitting and having their dinner. There were people at a table for 2 right behind us, probably 3 feet behind me. And then another table, probably 4 feet from us. And then the table next to that one was no more than 2 feet. And there were people at all of those tables while we were in there. So she clearly wasn't, it's going to be interesting to me to see. Now she'll know that I did in fact call the health inspector, because I even wondered whether she was telling the truth about the health inspector having been there, and the health inspection office would not confirm that they had been there or that they had not been there. But I know I got a call back from the government office that wrote the rules, and that woman was very, very conscientious, was on the phone with me for a long time, reiterated that those are in fact the stage 2 rules. That's not an option. If she wants to stay open, those rules have to be followed. So I think she was going to definitely get another visit. I don't know if we dare go back in there. She probably knows who I am.
wear a mask.
Wear a mask and
Give
my
her your-
sunglasses.
Yeah.
I think my hair did, I had to wear a hat too.
But Angela, the best way is to
Hi,
not
Grant.
business.
Who's there?
Hey, Grant.
Hey, hi, Sharon. Hi,
Hey,
Sam.
hi.
Dagmar.
Dagmar.
There's Teresa with the hole-in-one that you're really
You
jealous
snot, you total snot.
of. He's never had one, Therese. And my daughter, we're about to join a little club here, a golf club here, that's got a beautiful 9-hole course that runs along the ocean.
Yeah.
And he's on a waiting list, but he can still play over there for a really little bit of money. And so he took Pia over, and she got a hole-in-one. So he's not a happy guy.
Oh, God. Thank you, Angela. I got to make a plane ticket to Tulsa for next Saturday, so I'll see you guys later.
Be safe. Yeah.
Hey,
Bye.
Sam. Hey, Sam, how many babies you got now?
2.
2 babies for Sam?
There's Linda. Hi.
Hey, Carmen.
Hi.
One of them is, hold on.
Hi, Louise. Oh, these are all people. Hello, Josie, have you been there? Linda and Steve are there. Deirdre, hi. I didn't know all you folks were there.
My God.
I can only see 4 or 5 people along the top.
Hey, Angela,
Yes.
Here, I just do
all right,
nothing.
give me that restaurant's phone number. I'll give them a call.
Scare the pants off them. Say, hello, I understand you're breaking all the rules. Josie, did you make it?
Yeah, I'm currently trying to cut the skin off the salmon, and then we'll do the.
Oh yeah, I forgot to tell you that I had my fish shop. Oh, there's a new baby. Hi, sweetie. They cut the skin off the salmon for me, but they got home and they hadn't cut the skin off the haddock. So Josie, just use the sharpest small knife that you have and kind of slither it along the skin.
I'm working with the dullest fillet knife we have in the home.
Well, did you remember I told you what to do about that? Get a ceramic cup that's got a ceramic bottom and take your knife and rub it. Grant, give me a cup.
Ceramic.
Yeah. Like this. This is a little ceramic dish that's got a sort of unfinished rim here. And if you take a knife and rub it along that, it's not the best thing to do for your knives. Jacques Pepin would kill me, but it sharpens the knife. It really does a good job of sharpening. So you just want to carefully kind of do both sides along that ceramic rim, and you'll be amazed at how much sharper your knife is when you do that. She is just beautiful, Samantha. Look at that face.
What?
Samantha's baby.
Let me see that baby.
I forgot her name.
Oh, Sophia.
Sophia.
Oh, yeah.
She's beautiful. Look at her.
Where's that baby? Where's the oh my
Look at her.
God.
There for you. Yeah.
That she looks like the mother.
So I want to see, Judy, did you start?
No, I just got the skin off.
Okay.
I have.
I definitely could have cooked that fish longer. Definitely.
Yeah.
It was still, I mean, some people like it really sushi raw in there, and I really don't.
I forgot to tell Greg to have them skin them, but I used my butcher knife and I laid it upside down and I pulled the end and I just slid.
Yeah, it came off pretty quickly. The other day when I made it, I took the skin off myself.
I'm making it tonight. I've got everything assembled and stuff. Tonight's the night.
Yeah.
Okay, show me
All
your
right.
dishes, everybody.
Okay. Thanks so much, Angela.
Thank you.
Angela.
Bye.
Bye.
Wonderful.
Hi, Catherine.
Bye.
Bye-bye.